African children born and raised in the diaspora face several challenges in learning and connecting with their history, culture, and traditions. And one key challenge is the physical distance from the African continent, which often limits their direct exposure to cultural practices, languages, and social norms that are passed down through everyday life in African societies. Additionally, as my next guest explains, the dominance of Western narratives and media can obscure African histories and values due to a lack of relatable cultural content. Louisa Kiwana Olafuyi is the co-creator of Kunda and Friends, an animated series that streams on YouTube. She tells me that the series highlights Black storytelling traditions for preschoolers as a way to create a space where they can learn and celebrate African culture.
Kunda and Friends is a project that we created at Kunda Kids, which is a company that my husband and I, who's also my co-founder, created. So, as new parents in 2020, we had our son, and being mixed heritage Nigerian and Ugandan, we really wanted to be able to find content for him that celebrated his heritage, that was educational, that was uplifting. But unfortunately, a lot of that really wasn't available, and we didn't see it and struggled to find it. So when we would be watching YouTube shows, when we would be trying to find books and resources for our son, we were like, not only where are the Black people, where is the representation of African heritage, and how is my son supposed to see himself through the content that he watches?
Mhm.
So we set out to do something about that.
I like
And as parents, I hope that other parents can really resonate with how important it is to want to provide content, media, literature that inspires your children and makes them confident. So we started with books, and then we started to look at developing a show that celebrated African music, African storytelling, that celebrated and paid, I think, homage to my East African heritage as well as my husband's West African heritage, and to be able to teach the world and children around the world about Africa, which unfortunately isn't very well represented in the media and isn't well represented even in education. So we're rewriting what the next generation are going to know and experience about Africa.
Beautiful. So your background, you're from East Africa, your husband is from West Africa. How did these, two backgrounds and your experiences really influence the storytelling and character development in the series?
Well, it's a very East meets West story with my husband and I coming together. And we wanted young people to know that Africa is not a country, right? I think quite often Africa is represented, especially to children, as some homogenous thing that's the same. It's just safaris and animals. And um, I do a lot of work and engagement work in schools with educators and children. And I still get asked sometimes by children, do people wear shoes in Africa? Do they sleep with lions? Do we sleep in huts? And there is not an awareness that there's so much technological innovation coming out of Africa, that Africa is a continent is so influential to the development even that we see in the West. So we really wanted to rewrite that
Mhm.
um, for the next generation of global citizens. When we see children running around, I think we don't realize that they're going to be the decision makers for us in our old age. And in order for them to be well informed, and to be confident and make the right decisions, then we have to give them the right information.
And the right resources. So why did you choose to focus, let's say, I guess, on African history and culture in a preschool series? And how do you ensure that these themes resonate with these young audiences?
Mm. Well, children's media is their window to the world. So it is how they learn about other people and places that are beyond their immediate sort of circle of influence. So it's how they learn about different countries, different people, different foods, different cultures. Media is a window. Television, books, radio is a window to the world. And if they are lacking in information about anywhere, whether it's Africa, whether it's the Americas, whether it's Europe. They will not have a complete story of the world that they live in.
Mm.
So we just knew that when it comes to Africa and when it comes to children, that there is a disconnect in modern, high quality, progressive stories and content. And as a parent as well, I've listened to countless songs from whether it's Baby Shark or whether it's Coco Melon. We go crazy having to listen to these nursery rhymes again and again and again. And I thought, how can we make children's music really fun and a vibe for mom and dad, aunties and uncles, grandparents as well? So we took traditional nursery rhymes, sprinkled it with some Amapiano, Afro beats influence, which enables us to still do the storytelling, still educate children, but do it in a fun way that feels good for everybody in the household, and that celebrates Africa.
You can't go wrong with a piano and Afrobeats for sure. And I'm sure
No,
the
you
kids
can't.
enjoy it a lot. So the series incorporates insights from experts in early childhood development
Yeah.
and child psychology. Can you, I guess, talk to us a little bit about how these insights shaped the educational aspects of the show?
Absolutely. So, I mean, when you watch Kunda and Friends, you just see a fun, vibrant show with great characters having a good time. But there is a lot of behavioral science and expertise that go into the development of each episode. So, for example, one thing I really wanted to ensure that we did on this episode was to break the fourth wall. And breaking the fourth wall means that you're providing an opportunity for the creator or the character to interact with the person who is watching. So at the beginning and at the end of every episode, you'll find that Kunda, who's the protagonist, will be like, "Hi kids, what do you like to eat? What's your favorite thing to do? Let's talk about emotions," and really engages the child that's watching, so that watching TV doesn't become some passive exercise. I think as parents in the modern day, we worry about screen time. We worry about giving our children too much YouTube, too much television. And I do agree that there are reasons to be concerned there. Television and I think digital media in general needs to be handled with care because it's hugely influential to the development of young people. So we knew that if we're making a show that's going to be on screen, we had to make sure that it is rich in educational value, that it offers in opportunities for children to interact, to engage, to even not only engage with the screen and with the characters, but with their parents.
Mm.
So when we say, what emotion are you feeling right now, kids? And, and then there's a pause. It's an opportunity for that child to answer back. It's an opportunity for the parent to say, "How are you feeling?" And these are the kind of things that we've done very intentionally because we know that there's so many benefits to thinking progressively about children's content and not just letting it be a passive experience.
Absolutely. Again, there's a little bit of balancing in here, the entertainment aspect of it with the educational goals, particularly when you're talking about African history and celebrating diversity. Let's talk a little bit more about how you're able to balance those two aspects of the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we proudly call ourselves an edutainment company, right?
Mhm.
Because I don't believe that entertainment and education have to be mutually exclusive. Fundamentally, especially at a preschool level, children learn through play. That's the first way that children learn is through play. Whether it's building Lego and they're learning about, physics and engineering just by putting Lego blocks together, whether they are just coloring and, learning about control, motor skills. There's so much learning that happens through play. And likewise, when children are consuming entertainment, that is a form of play. And learning can still happen during that experience. So we are very much a fun first business and we have a very fun first agenda, but it's not just fun for the sake of fun. I think we underestimate how much children learn essential skills, soft skills through playful interactions.
Mm. Now, you started off in London, but you crossed over, crossed the Atlantic. You're now in the US, and you've had a growing viewership in the US market. What do you think has contributed to the series' success beyond its origins in London?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a very global story. I was born in Uganda. Dele, my other co-founder and partner, was born in Nigeria. We've lived in London. We're expanding into the US. Our animation studio is based in Africa, and we've always looked at ourselves as taking African storytelling to a global audience. What I love about the US market is that it's so diverse. You meet people from all walks of life, and we knew that we wanted to tell African stories and promote African heritage, but not just to Africans. We wanted it to be a global experience that everybody can participate in. And right now, we know that a quarter of children around the world are of African descent, but that's going to be 40% by 2040. So we knew that it's really important for us to really represent the diversity of children, and how that's going to change in terms of world population. And we know that America is becoming more diverse. We know that people are engaging with different cultures more and more and more, especially the younger generations. So we wanted to be first in making a fantastic environment in which that can thrive.
Mhm. Are there any long-term goals for Kunda and Friends? For example, introducing new elements, expanding the series. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. So we are looking forward to having more characters from different types of heritage, which is going to be really exciting. We are expanding the shows into different languages, from French to Spanish, to again make it a global show. We are also going to be having more physical events. So we've done Kunda and Friends events around the world, which have been sold out. We've done two in London. We've been to Nairobi. We've been to Europe, Finland in Europe. We've been to Ghana. We have an event this Saturday back in London, and we are going to be making a very, 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 very big splash in the US next year, with plans to do a huge event in Houston, Texas. We plan to come to Washington, where we hope to see you, Jackson. We expect you to
You're
be in the
welcome to
front
visit
row.
us here at the Voice of America. You have an open invitation.
Thank you. And New York as well, and Atlanta. So we have huge ambitions in the US, and can't wait to see our friends in the US and bring everybody together for a fun time with Kunda and Friends.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what we have in the pipeline.
What would you say is the role of children's media in shaping the perceptions of young kids about culture and history, particularly in the context of African storytelling?
Mm, absolutely. I believe in the notion of you can't be what you don't see, and when children grow up and they don't see themselves represented, whether that's their skin color, whether that's their culture, they believe that they don't exist, or that they don't matter, right? And this manifests itself into inferiority complexes, or even superiority complexes for other children as they grow up. It's really important that children are able to see other characters, and other experiences that mirror their own. It makes them feel seen, it makes them feel heard, and that in turn instills confidence in themselves. And we know confidence has a huge direct correlation into children's later attainment and how successful they'll be in life. So it's not just a children's show. It is injecting self-confidence, self-awareness, and an attitude of global citizenship at such an early age. And that ends up being nurtured as children grow.